Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy show, and today we have an incredible guest on. I'm excited. Every time when I get the opportunity to invite people onto my show, it goes through a selection process of who do I think is going to be best, what messages need to be heard, and how pertinent are they, especially to when I'm launching them, how pertinent are they to kind of world circumstances, things like that. So I am super, super pumped right now to have Kip Brooks. Kenobi part is definitely a calling name, but he is a certified Jedi master and trainer in neuro-linguistic programming. Now, if you've never heard of NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, you are going to have your mind blown today, especially kind of going through this sense of world uncalm. It's essential that we learn how to talk to ourselves, how to communicate to others, and learn how to stay positive. Negativity causes a lot of from a quantum physical perspective and hormonal perspective, a lot of not great things that don't serve us. And so learning how to control our environment and the languages that we're using are crucial, especially in this time where you've never had as much time to yourself, probably since you've been alive, right? You've been in school, all these things. Now you're sitting at home wondering what the heck to do with yourself and your family because you've never spent that much time together. This is huge. So he came from nothing, gained it all, lost it all, and now he's traveled the globe helping other clients gain it all in their lives by removing the emotional and mental blocks that are often put on their success. Look, guys, I can't stress this enough. Now you have time to work through all of these things. Like, now is the time to do it. You're never going to get 2 weeks off from work again just because. I don't know if you never will, but this is the time to do it. I mean, it's a gift from God in my mind. This whole circumstance is such a blessed opportunity for us to take advantage of. I'm super excited for you guys to hear from Kip Brooks. So Kip, go ahead and give us a little bit more of your background and help us understand why you want to build a legacy and what legacy you're building. Go ahead and start from your earliest memories and bring us on through the journey.
Wow, and thank you so much for having me. I love the show. And yeah, for me, so, I started out typical kid, curious about the world and just trying to be happy and explore around and make my parents proud and all that good stuff. But I wasn't in an environment that was nourishing to that type of mindset. And I was very sensitive as a kid. I was very empathic, and I don't have a single memory of my parents ever getting along or ever feeling like they were even remotely happy in their life in any way, shape, or form. They hated their job, and that just blew my mind because they actually owned their own business, and they hated every minute of it. And they weren't happy being in a relationship. So, but neither one would walk away from the business, so they wouldn't walk away from the relationship. And so there was just this, I never felt safe or comfortable at home. And by the time I was 8 years old, I was having suicidal thoughts. Luckily, I didn't know that was something that could actually be done. It's just, I would pray every night as I was going to sleep that I was like, just make my heart stop. Don't let me wake up tomorrow. But around that time, I had a younger sister who was born. I connected with her right away. And I always felt protective, not just of her, just of people. I never liked to see people hurting or being hurt or anything like that. And so I came up with this idea that by the time I was 10 or 11 and started learning, there were other options. And, as far as like, I didn't have to actually be here. And there were ways to, in my life or whatever. By then I'd connected with her so much. I had this idea that if I wasn't there, then all this crap I was going through would get dumped on her, just kind of passed on. So I was like, I've got to stay here to keep her safe, at least until she's old enough to, and strong enough to survive on her own. And so she was, for the longest time, my baby infant sister here was like a guardian angel for me. Then I had a really low point at age 14, and decided that was it. I couldn't do it anymore. And her life was pretty good. She was the youngest in the family and the only girl, so she was babied, she was pampered, she was looked after and loved. And I was like, all right, she'll be all right, and was holding a gun on my head, pulling the trigger, and then something in me clicked, and I got really angry, and I wanted to be fixed. I wanted to feel better, and I was just really upset. Not just that I felt that way, but a kid felt that way as long as I did. And I also knew there were other people not happy. Actually, somewhere between age 10 and 12, I had a grandfather who committed suicide. So it was like, people shouldn't feel this way. And I made a promise to myself in the universe that if I ever figured out another way to be, and actually found happiness in life, and was able to get up every day and not be miserable that I actually woke up, it's like, I'm going to come back and shine that same light for the people who are in that darkness. I want to show people there's possibility. But first I got to find it. Well, I wish I could say I woke up the next day and it was like Ebenezer Scrooge, after he had his breakthrough. It was like just singing out the window and like making it rain on the delivery boy and all that. But I was still, a broken, lost 14-year-old kid who knew no other way. And I was still in the same environment, and I didn't understand the power of perception and mindset and all that. So stayed around, still trying to okay, at least look after my sister and all that and try to figure it out. But as time went on, I was still just never really getting there. And then my dad passed away when I was 15, and my mom was getting Social Security money for each of the kids. And I remember she came to me, I was around 16 or 17, and it was just a little before I turned 17, I think. And I was supposed to graduate at 17 because my birthday was right on the cusp, where they let me go through. So I was always the youngest kid in my class. And she came to me, she's like, you would graduate at 18 or 17, but if you could stay in school and repeat 12th grade, I'll get another year of Social Security money. And so I saw this this opportunity of, now I'll get love and acceptance. Now I'm valuable. Now I'm worthy. That was a dream anyway. It didn't pull out to be true, but it also planted a seed in my mind of that's all I'm worth. To this a mother's love is supposed to be like this just godly presence in our life, right? And unconsciously, I got the seed planted. I was like, I'm absolutely worthless to this family. And then one day I saw the checks, and it was like $632 and some change. And I was like, that's all my life's worth. And for a couple of years after that, like about 2.5 years, that's about all I ever made at any job I had. I didn't realize it for a long time, but looking back, I would make between like $600 and $700 a month. And if I ever got a job where I was making more than that, I would do something to sabotage it. And I didn't understand it until, later on in life, and I got into psychology and NLP and everything. But it's really fascinating to look back on. I said, wow, that's what I believed I was worth, because that's what I saw my mom getting for me. And that was what was made her willing to ask me to intentionally fail. And now looking back, it had to be pretty painful for a mother to ask her child to fail. It shows me the dire straits we were in at the time. But at that moment in time, I didn't see it that way. I wasn't aware of any of that. And so anyway, I did repeat 12th grade. And if she wouldn't have done that, honestly, I would have probably just withdrawn from school completely. I didn't see a point in going. I was still very suicidal. I was planning on committing suicide after I graduated, or after high school was done. Once she, when she asked me to do that, I was like, okay, the money stops at, June 8th. I might as well. That's the last value I can add to the planet. Well, a couple months before that, I had, if I didn't show up to school, they would have kicked me out completely. So I had to show up at least a little bit. I only needed this half a credit for the second semester of a world history class. And I had this rookie teacher. It was his second year, brand new to our school. And we had ignored each other the whole first part of the year. He comes to me in the beginning of the second semester, a few weeks in, and comes up, holds me after school, slaps some papers down in front of my desk. He's like, I don't know what in the world you have going on in your head, in your, inside, at home. I don't even know you outside this classroom. We've never even spoken in here. He's like, but he starts slapping the papers. He's like, I know this is not you. I won't accept this behavior from you anymore. And I won't allow you to accept it from yourself. He's like, you're better than this. And that was all he said. And we sat there for what seemed like an eternity of silence, but it's probably about 3 seconds. And then he's like, you're allowed to leave whenever you want. That's all I had to say for today. And I got up and bolted out of the room as fast as I could. I felt so uncomfortable because, you see, I was actually an AB student all through elementary school. I was always on the honor roll, student of the month a bunch of times. And then when I went into 7th grade, something shifted, and I went from A's and B's to D's and F's. Actually, one of my first report cards was like 6 F's and a D. And instead of anybody seeing that and being like, wow, what happened? What's going on inside? They just started punishing me nonstop. And I was written off by teachers, by the school, by my parents as just, a screw up. And Coach Calderon was about the first teacher to see past that and look for something else. He wasn't the only one. There ended up being another one, but he was the first one to actually grab me, kind of shake me up, give me a little bit of tough love. And what he did in NLP and psychology is called a pattern interrupt. No one had actually done that. Everybody had just been like, show up, suck it up, pull it together, study harder, whatever. And it's like, I wasn't studying. I wasn't doing anything. It's like, I didn't see a point, and no one ever grabbed onto that. So, so the day came that I had planned to end my life. It came and it went. And it was a couple of years before I realized, whoa, I wasn't supposed to be here past now. I was like, wait a minute. And I started looking back, trying to figure out like what happened. Cause it's like, I would literally for a couple of years, I thought about that day every single day and counted it down. I was just so miserable. That was the only thing getting me through it, was that I wasn't getting beyond that point. Or, wasn't going to pass that point. I was like, there's an end to all this. And finally around my mid-20s, I had actually started turning things around and had been at a job for a while and was doing it, and I was making more than that $600-700 a month, and was starting to get it together. And life was pretty decent. It was better than I had ever thought it would be for me anyway. And it kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better. I still ran into some roadblocks, would still like sabotage here and there and mess things up. And I wouldn't know why, but it was like I would get 4 steps up, fall 2 or 3 back, but then I would get 5 more back. It was just back and forth. So it was this gradual improvement with some setbacks along the way. And finally, as I found out I was going to be a parent, I went to work on myself. I was doing pretty good by then, mentally and emotionally, and doing okay at work. And something triggered in me when I found out I was going to be a parent. And it was like, I know, even though I'm doing better than I've ever done, I know there's some skeletons in my closet, some baggage, and I don't want to dress my kids out of the same baggage that I've been carrying. And I was like, there's some stuff I need to heal from childhood, and I need to find out how. And I'd been going to, I went to a therapist for a couple of years, psychologists and psychiatrists and things. And never got anywhere really. Would have some little improvements here and there, but it was such a long drawn out process. And something in me just kept saying that there's another way. They would put me on some meds. I was on all sorts of meds. And it would make me feel good for a little bit, and then would plateau or drop back down. And finally I was like, there's something different. There's something I'm missing. So I went back into a journey of trying to discover something. And that's when NLP, psychology, and neuroscience started entering my life. I started putting myself in these different spots, found out about the personal development world, went to seminars, went to shamanism courses. I took a soul song class. I didn't even know what it was. I barely know what it is now, but I was just looking for anything. I was like, something different than what I've been doing. And whenever I found NLP and really started dissecting it, because when I first got introduced to it, I was only brought into the sales side of it, and which I found fascinating and loved, used it, worked, had some great success. But the therapeutic side of it was kind of just parked away in the shadows somewhere. And when I discovered that and then realized how to link the two and started understanding the baggage we carried from the past and how to release it and all that, that's when it really triggered in for me and it really got amped up. And then in 2010, I had a daughter who passed away shortly after birth, and her life she had a brain deformation that was there's no treatment for, no cure, and it's 100% fatal. It's just a matter of time, and that's it. And it's usually very soon. But in her time, the rest of it was perfectly healthy and strong. And in her time going through that experience, I started learning about organ donation. And we were told she could never be a donor because of the way the laws are written. They're like, it's illegal for a child 2 years old or younger to be a donor. And I was like, well, that's really stupid. Why is it? Because donors are needed for that age. And it's just the way the laws are written. It's like it falls into this funky little area, and they're like, can't do anything about it. So I went out to change that. And I was like, because there's people all the time losing a child at this age. And it makes no sense that someone like me can't help someone like them. I was like, if I can prevent somebody from feeling this, then I feel like that's my duty. And so I went to work on that. And one of the things they didn't tell me was it was just too taboo, and everybody was too afraid to approach that issue. So after it was all done, now there's a protocol set in place, and actually the organ procurement organization I worked with, they do the training in it. They set the protocol. So there's now a protocol for, and they actually discovered new technology of a new way to, a new technology to bring in organ donation with this liver cell transplant that actually keeps many, many times, a high percentage, maybe even 100% by now, can keep people from having to get liver transplant. They can actually inject cells from a healthy liver into that. And they discovered it trying to shut me up, basically, because I was beating on so many doors and kicking a few down. And so it was in Europe, and they found it and brought it to the States and got a lot of funding behind it. So so in that, like the world of organ donation was changed by this baby girl who only lived minutes. Basically, life outside the womb for her was 99 minutes. And that completely altered everything I believed deep down, buried beneath everything. That altered everything I'd ever heard and believed about our life and the value we bring. Because I realized if someone that young lived that short a period of time could make such a huge difference in the world. I mean, globally, there have been so many lives saved and positively impacted because of her journey. It's like, if she was able to add that much value and have that much of an impact, be that significant to the world, what the heck have I been doing? And I was like, every life has value. I was like, including mine, and I won't live any other way ever again. And that was it. It snapped me out of it to this day. Right now, I get goosebumps, cold chills every time I think about when I had that just click. Much like I had when I was 14, it's just I was so lost and dark. It's like finally all those seeds had gestated, from that moment at 14 and even the moments before that with my sister, like understanding that life is valuable. I was seeing it in my sister, I wasn't seeing it myself. And then again at 14, and then with Coach Calderon planting that seed and all these different little things along the way, finally got through my thick skull. Like when Tupac Shakur would write poetry about, a rose that grew from concrete. It's like, finally, that's all I had to take was the rose busted through the concrete that is my thick skull. And I finally figured it out. And to this day, like when people ask me, it's like, what's your superpower? I'm like, it's the fact that I can see possibility in every person, even when they can't say it themselves. And it just came from, I never saw it myself. So once I did, I'm like, oh man. And I tell people all the time, I have never met a client who is more screwed up than I was. So it's like, if there was a chance for me, there's one for you. You just got to believe it, and we got to get you there. And that's it. And yeah, it's ever since then, it's been geared towards, where I'm at now and where we're moving towards.
I love it. The whole story is incredible. Honestly, what I found about talking to multiple people is when they find their legacy, it really is to help a version of themselves. And also there's nothing like, once that penny drops, once the rose bursts through the concrete, right? Once that happens, I don't feel like there's really ever any going back to it and going back from that experience. Like this term is probably used too flippantly, but it's a level of enlightenment about who you are and what your potential is and what your purpose is that can't be contained anymore. And that's what I just love about the whole process is you're creating now healing for other people. And what I found with a lot of people who I've talked to that specifically do neuro-linguistic programs, so I'm going to ask you this question because I'm curious your perspective on it. There's many people who I think have used neuro-linguistic programming. You probably have a lot of clients who have used it in the past. In my experience, all of the practitioners that I know, the people who are like actively helping people, they all have a story similar to yours where they truly believe that they are more screwed up than anybody they could ever meet. Or at least they were more screwed up than anybody they could ever meet. And because of that, they make great practitioners because there's that empathy, there's that relatability that like, look, there is still hope for you. And I think that belief helps it work even more for the people who maybe haven't had that experience to be a practitioner. I'm just curious, how many practitioners do you know that haven't had one of these like major life, like they went from suicidal to being an avid like crusader for the NLP, hypnosis, things like that help?
No, so many who haven't, and it's funny, you're just dead on the money. It's the ones I speak with who have had like these just amazing stories of transformation with clients. Like me, my favorite one is this girl, and I have full permission to use her story. I have tons of video testimonials from her and interviews and everything, and she's actually a student of mine right now. But Melissa, she was a rape victim, and because of the rape and the way trauma and everything works, the rape left her with asthma, PTSD, phobia, anaphylactic allergy, and that allergy had actually left her legally dead for more than 5 minutes a couple of years ago. And social anxiety, what else? She had a ton of stuff because she was brutally raped at 13. And we worked together in like a 20-minute session. And part of it, right before we worked together, she's like, and she didn't tell me all that, but I could tell because she's like, do I have to share? Because she was a demo. I was at a seminar I'd been asked to come present at. And she's like, and whenever she asked me, her eyes went dark, and I could just see, pain can recognize pain, and we can only see in others what we've seen in ourselves a lot of times. And so I could just recognize it. And I had an idea of what it was because just the shift in her, persona and body language and everything. But I was like, well, no, not at all. keep yourself. I don't need to know. You don't need to know. It's all unconscious. Let's just get rid of it. And she told us afterwards, but she had told me before. She's like, well, you need to know that one of my best friends has all the same training you do, and actually maybe a little bit more. And it's like he refused to work with me because it was too dangerous. And I was like, well, that's his stuff. That's not your limitation. It's not mine. I was like, do you believe it can be done? And she did. She was dead on it. I was like, and you trust me? You trust the process? Yeah. Okay. That's all it takes. And about a 20-minute session, she's done. No allergy, none of that, no PTSD anymore, no phobia. And but she was so ready to let it go. And that, like, it rocked my world. I didn't know how long that was going to take. I was like, but if it takes all night, I'm staying here. I will not let her leave. And that kind of pain that I just saw. And what it is, like, we talked about it afterwards, and had a very similar conversation with where you and I are going. It was the people, and she had talked to a few people who worked with her on a lot of different things from her past, but never going near like the allergy and all of that stuff. And that was their limited belief in what it was. And if I have a second superpower, this is it. I've always been too dumb to be afraid. Like, I'm not afraid to go there with a client. It's like, I've had my own darkness, and my own pain, and all of that. It's like, yours isn't going to, and I don't mean this in a cold or like being a jerk or anything. It's like, your trauma isn't going to hurt me. So why would I be afraid to go there? If I can go there with you and help get you out, I'm coming in. It's the firefighter coming into the burning building. Everybody else is running out. And it's because it's that protection thing. And it's like, I don't want anyone. I can't sleep at night knowing I let somebody stay in that, thinking it's anything remotely like mine was or worse. The pain I experienced. Because the mental and emotional pain is far worse than any physical pain.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the people she had said that who had like refused to work with it or whatever, like the ones who were friends or whatever, she's like, yeah, they had a pretty good childhood growing up or whatever. And other practitioners or ones I've had who've come to me, I've even had people who actually mentored me on the way up come to me and ask my advice and opinion and ask for mentorship from me. And even though they have years of study and knowledge in it, but they never had the practice. They never went there. They never pushed the boundaries. And I would talk to them, kind of same thing. Like, they never had the experience of it themselves, of some kind of traumatic event or deep mental and emotional pain. And the ones I talked to who have had these amazing transformations for themselves or clients, you talk to them and say, well, what was your life like growing up? It's like, parents used to beat me all the time, or I grew up in an orphanage, or I have someone else who actually had a friend who had a great childhood, but then got in a very abusive marriage, and that just took everything they knew about the world and flipped it inside out. And that's it. It's amazing. It's so healing to actually step into this side of things and start coaching people through that, because it's like, it gives that pain a purpose. And that's why we're giving it anyway, right? Pain is a huge motivator, and it's a beautiful teacher. So we need to experience some of it. Now, I don't ever want to see anybody experience like true hopelessness. That's a pain that no one needs to sink that low to. But it's like, pain can be beautiful, and prosperity can come from it. And I don't just mean, when I say prosperity, I don't just mean money and the monetization of things. Prosperity and just complete health, happiness. Well, that's what true success and prosperity is to me, is just being happy and that you're alive, just being happy to take a breath and, and have beautiful relationships, friends, family, a life partner, kids, if that's what you want. And also prosperity and being able to leave a legacy and make an impact in the world and love what you do, have passion in your work and all of that. And it's that true abundance. And it's like, that pain has a purpose. And if you just follow that purpose, that's the most healing thing I've ever done, is helping others. Every time I work with a client, there's a little piece of me that's like giving back. It's It sounds, it's cliche as all can be. Everybody says it or has said it at some point. It's in Hollywood all the time, but it's like, it really is true. It's like we heal somebody else. And it's like I can feel that little kid I once was, like getting a hug, or just getting the lollipop or something, just getting something to bring a smile out.
Absolutely. So I just love that. It's so cool. I'm going to go over some of these things that stuck out to me about your story, because I want to draw attention to them, because this podcast, right, is partially healing for oneself, which is essential. And if you've got nothing else out of his story, you can start thinking, I was just sitting here listening and thinking, man, I need to go, in certain cases, I need to go be the pattern interrupt in some people's lives that I see that maybe aren't doing what, and not that I think what they're doing is not good or bad, right? It's not about that, but I can see when somebody is doing something intentional or out of habit. And once they get into the habitual thing that's not serving them, then it serves to have a pattern interrupt and say, okay, why are you doing this? What's the intention behind this pattern? And help them get out of that. So think of that. Those are things that I thought about. But let's talk about some of your childhood, some of the thoughts you have, because I think these are very common and they're in every area of our life. He shared a story of his childhood and how he dealt with things that way. But I want to address this from a business perspective, from a relationship perspective, a few different things that I'm going to highlight here. But in the beginning, he said his parents, what was the situation with his parents? They hated their business. He felt like they hated him, and they hated being tied to each other. They didn't like each other. They didn't like their business. They didn't like anything, but they felt powerless to get out of it. They stayed together because of the business. They stayed in these bad situations because of ultimately financial security. And that played another role later on in the story. My story, and as you've listened to me on different podcasts, very similar, right? I came from a 7th of 11 kids and in a position of poverty. I mean, essentially, there was domestic violence, there was a lot of gaslighting, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and with that, it's nothing bad to say about my parents or anything like that. I love and respect my parents. They were going through their own things, chemical imbalances. It's hard to raise a family. But the point being is we came from that position, and because of that, I went to study psychology, neuroscience, right? Neuropsychology. So we go through these similar pathways. And what was fascinating, what I found in the research once we got into the sociological research, is exactly what he highlighted. And that is that people will stay in these negative environments, these negative chemical environments, these negative physical environments, emotional environments, spiritual environments. They'll stay there 90% of the time because they don't know how to financially care for themselves or the people that depend on them outside of that situation. And so my mission is to help people understand money enough so that they don't have to make decisions based on money, but they can make decisions based on what's best for them. What I'm doing doesn't replace or it complements what Kip is doing. He's helping people more with the mentality of healing through these traumas. That's as important or more important than understanding how money works. Money's just the name of the show, right? The fuel for the legacy. It's not the legacy itself. The legacy itself is the healing that Kip provides. The fuel is understanding how to financially make those things happen. Okay, so I want to add some contrast there and some clarity. But one of the things that I loved is when he got his little sister, right? When his little sister shows up, and so many people, I mean, I've been using this quote a lot on social media and different avenues, but that very rarely do we rise to leadership. We fall to the level of our training. That is most cases, okay? And I've had some pushback because some people say, oh, well, there's the exception. Some people do rise, right? Well, Kip is one of those people who's an exception. He's an outlier. He did rise, right? When he was thinking, oh, man, this sucks, I want out, then he sees another person come in and says, no, even if I did want out, I can't leave them in this situation. So rather than backing down, right, rose to leadership, rose to, I need to be alive to protect and to lead and to make sure that my family's okay. And these are the things that in such terrible circumstances, I'm sure Kip wasn't necessarily thinking of what an incredible attribute that is. for myself, I have a similar story. Like I literally, when I get on stage, I literally use these wordings because for me, I had an abusive mom. And I felt that the way to, that I was stronger, and these are all like our self-justifications or ourselves building ourselves up. But I felt that I was stronger, could handle a beating a little bit better, and could be a better leader than my mom. And so I did that. The unfortunate thing about my story is that rather than leading better than my mom, I became the same type of leader as my mom. So then I didn't get punished, but then I ended up not being nice to my siblings and causing harm to my siblings as a way to impact less pain than my mom was impacting. But now what does that increase? That incurs a sense of even betrayal from another part. I mean, there's a lot of psychological mess there, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the layers keep going, don't they?
Yeah, but the things you don't understand, leaders, there are some people who do step up for an occasion. Most back down, some step up. That's happening in every area of their life. And it's not, I want to make sure that people understand you're not bad or wrong or less than, or there's nothing demeaning about being somebody who falls or choose to run from the fiery building rather than running into it, right? That's not, if that's you, don't feel bad, don't self-shame or whatever, or feel guilty about that. People are different, they have different roles and they have different purposes, and that's okay. It's okay to know that you're different, and we need both people, because if everybody ran in the building, we'd all die, right? So we need people who are outside taking care of the people who are outside the building. So that was huge. And then to do that, to be able to do that, he had to have an awareness of how others were, right? What ultimately pulled the gun out of his mouth or wherever it was on his body when he was thinking that is, man, I'm finally at a point where I'm in this pain. I now recognize, I'm at a point where I think I could recognize other people who are in the same pain. Maybe they're either doing the same type of thing in private or they're thinking about it. Again, he had already set up the pattern in his life to be a leader. As soon as he recognized that where he could lead, he fell back, or rose up rather, to leadership and said, okay, who else who needs my help? That's his reason to live now, is to find those people who are hurting and to help them. And that was decided at a young age, even though it didn't necessarily come to full fruition till later. That was decided at a young age. Most major decisions in your life are decided or created, the patterns, between, I would say, 6 and 10 years old. Most of them, maybe even younger. Depends on who you ask, but there's a wide range from anywhere 4 to 15. And I like to say, well, let's go a little bit lower. But that's the situation there. Okay, this part is I think the craziest part. I don't know if I would say craziest, but there's 2 things that I think could cause the biggest transformation for you who are listening right now, especially in the world situation that we're in. The economy is upside down. The economy is like basically worse than the Great Depression. Okay, and I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer, but it just is. That's the statistical evidence. We've had worse days than even before the Great Depression and through the Great Depression. Okay, so what's interesting though is many people are going to lose their jobs from which they were paid based on what their employer thought they were worth. In Kip's situation, he was being used for whatever money his mom thought he was worth. Okay, that his situation and your situation are, I mean, for lack of better words, not to draw too crass of examples, they're identical. Okay, you're getting paid based on what somebody else believes you're worth, and as long as you're looking or hoping for times to get back to the old normal where you're just paid what somebody else thinks you're worth, you're not getting it. Like I said at the beginning, this is one of the greatest opportunities God could have given us, our world situation right now. It's time for you to identify your worth. What do you believe your worth is? Because when this all ends, you're going to have to go find a job again, but maybe, or you're going to start your own business, whatever you're going to do. And how are you going to say, no, this is what I know I'm worth? How are you going to project into those conversations, this is what I know I'm worth? And Kip can help you make that transformation because he recognized He saw what he thought he was worth, $600, $700 a month. Okay. And so many people, you decide that you're worth $40,000 a year or $70,000 a year or $30,000 a year, right? And it's the same, the number's different, but the mental process is identical. I promise you, from a neuro-linguistic programming perspective, the language is the same. And so he can help you. If you want to level up your income through this whole situation, he's your guy. He can help you do that. He did it for himself. He can help you do that. Share a little bit about that, Kip, because I know it's possible. I know you can do it, but share a little bit about what that process is. What does it look like?
It's funny when you were bringing that up. A colleague I have, she's awesome. We were working with each other. We had kind of traded out. I was like, hey, will you run me through a session? I'll run you through a session, or whatever. And she was focusing on career and finance, and she was telling me about all the money stories that she had growing up. And come from a small town. People in a small town don't make much money, and of course, everybody's favorite, money doesn't grow on trees, all that. And then if you want to be highly successful, you got to be a crook, and all this stuff that she grew up with. And then it was when she became a coach, everybody was telling her, well, if you can help people, you should do that for free. You shouldn't get paid for helping people. I said, well, what? That's never made sense to me. But that's how so many people think. And so in her coaching business, she was phenomenal at what she does. But she would cap out every time. It was like at like $6,000 a month or whatever it was, $5 or $6,000, somewhere around there. And she told me we were working together in like mid-July, somewhere around like July 10th or 11th, somewhere around there. And this was a couple years ago, 2017 actually. And she's like, by the end of the year, the goal we set at the end of the session for her was, she's like, I want to be making $10K a month or more by the end of December. She was like, I want December to be my official first $10K month. Awesome. Let's go get it. And that's, that was the plan. I have a text message from her. Actually, the reason she popped in my message, I have a screenshot of a text message she sent me on August 1st. She actually pulled $10K a month in July, with a little more than half a week. Like I say, it was around somewhere between July 10th or 12th. We worked together, and by August 1st, it was like 4:00 in the afternoon. She's sending me a message like, "Oh my God, I did it already!" She's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "It wasn't me. That was you." It's like, but she had held that belief. She had the ability. Everything else was there, and then we just had to remove the belief that it was possible. Just remove the belief that it wasn't there for her, that she couldn't do it. And it's like clients were like coming out of the woodwork for her. It's just she would find a way to self-sabotage, or she would end up doing something for free, or and that's the thing. Like, people are like, I don't have that belief. So what you do is just, for it to be a belief, it's buried so deep you don't even recognize it. So you said it comes in at a very young age, and a lot of people actually say you're even getting programmed these ideas and beliefs when we're in the womb. And there's actually evidence. They've done so many tests with animals, different tests showing that baggage and programming can be passed down genealogically, and they've proven it over and over. And it's crazy where all that comes from. But the beauty of it is it can be fixed, even if it's genealogical, even if it comes from 100 generations back. It doesn't matter. It can be fixed now in the present moment. And part of the technique is just being able to elicit that belief and at the unconscious level, and then just change it. So the unconscious mind works. It works in some symbolism, and it functions very much like a toddler, like a 4-year-old. And the problem is, I like to get people real riled up and rowdy, and a lot of times I'll say things like affirmations suck, or they don't work, or whatever, and they do work for some people. Don't work for a lot of people. In certain contexts, they actually have a reverse effect than desired, and it's when it hits a core belief and like a baggage, deep buried baggage situation. Once the baggage is removed, then it can work. But if it's going against what we believe at a deep level, it'll actually make us hold on to it. So like affirmations and talk therapy work on a conscious level. Problem is, beliefs are at an unconscious level. So, and again, unconscious mind works like a toddler. So once we understand, if you play any game in the world against a toddler, if you don't know the rules and they do, they're going to kick the crap out of you. However, if you know the rules, little toddler's a joke. Right? You can take them out. They're very easy to entice. You can crush them in the game. I don't care if it's Candyland or football. You can take them out, right? And it's the same thing with the unconscious mind. We just have to understand the rules of the game it plays by. And once we do, it's that quote of the mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. It really is. And so unconscious mind is trying to process things really fast. And, it has to make split-second decisions because our life depended on it back in the caveman days, where we would come out and, there would be movement somewhere. We would see a furry animal or hear steps coming. So it had to be able to process all the data it could take in really quick and decide, is that a predator? Is it prey? Is it a friend? What is it? And so in any given second, the unconscious mind is processing 4 million bits of information. The conscious mind can only process 126. 126, that's it. So if you turn a bit of information into a drop of water, the unconscious mind is dealing with a waterfall that's 112 or 114 gallons a second. I didn't do the math. I had to reach out to people that were smarter than I am to do it. But the conscious mind, out of that 112 gallons, can only get a teaspoon. That's it. Now, the same 4 million bits is going on for everybody. Everybody. We're all living in the same world. That 4 million bits is there. It's consistent. There's good, there's bad. The faces in the 4 million bits might change, the geographic location, but there's positive and negative in all of it. So what we have programmed our mind to look for is that teaspoon. That's the teaspoon we're going to take out. So that's why some people always find the bright side. And that's why a lot of people only find the crap, the garbage. Their water that they take out of that waterfall has the mosquito, stagnant, algae and all that. And but the beauty is we can dump that teaspoon out and we can pick whatever teaspoon out of it we want. Just have to know the process. And it's like I say, everything is symbolic. So we go in and there's some form of the image. There's we call it an internal representation and an IR. And that IR is either it's a picture for people who are visual, it's a sound for people who are auditory, it's a feeling for those of us who are kinesthetic. And what we do is we just elicit that. We find out what the submodalities are, and submodalities are the details, like the grooves in a key that make the key open and lock. It's the details in the picture. Is it black and white color? How big is it? All that stuff. It's all those little details. So we list those details, and then we just go and we change them. And then there's techniques where we can actually just wipe that picture out, put in a new picture, or sound, or whatever that IR is for that person. We can just change it, and we can install whatever they choose. Something much more empowering and useful. And it's ridiculous how fast it can make an impact, and how long. Like, people are always going, "What did you do to me?" And then how long is it going to last? It lasts as long as you choose it to. Like, you did the work; it's there. Unless you choose to accept the old belief and bring it back, it's like it's done. Like, it's changed, and it happens so fast. Results don't take time; they take courage. They take belief. And Tony Robbins says all the time, like, change happens in an instant. It didn't take you 10 years to finally find a diet that works, whatever. It took you 10 years to finally be disgusted enough with your results to change in that instant and finally go after something else. And it does. Changes in belief can change in a moment, just instantly. It's just, we have to be prepared for it. We have to believe it can happen. And that's the problem. January 1st, everybody, or New Year's Eve, everybody decides they're going to make a change, or they think they decide. And then a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, and it's because we don't have the system, we don't have the strategy, and we're trying to do it consciously. but all change, all behavior is at an unconscious level. And once we figure that out, we can hack the system. It's like any computer.
Yeah, I love it. So one more thing that I want to highlight, and then we're gonna move on because we're gonna run out of time. This is a problem with getting together with people who you think so much alike, and you can just have a conversation for days on. Is there's not time. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you're sitting at home, there's time. But Kip and I
we should get together and do a series or something.
No, really. But one thing that I wanted to highlight here is he mentioned that he was counting down to the end, and that was what kind of was pulling him through, as he knew the day that he was planning on dying. And so getting through getting through high school, getting through those things, that was like the light at the end of the tunnel was checking out. And then he got past that day and looked back and was like, wait, what happened? I wasn't supposed to be here. I was planning on dying. What changed? Okay. What I want to pose to you, just to have you think about, the listener here, is what is the end? Okay, if you're counting down towards the end, what is the end that you're counting down towards? So many people, they spend their lives counting down to an end. They start Monday morning at work, and before they even start on Monday, they're counting down to Friday. They're counting down to the end of the day. They're counting down to when their kids go to sleep. They're counting down to when they're healthy again. They're counting down all these things. And the very nature of counting down, although it can be effective, right? Fear can be effective. There's a lot of things that can be effective to elicit action, right? But unfortunately, it's like a negative programming to count down towards something. Even if nothing else changed, rather than counting down and you just started counting up, what are you counting towards? That's the first question. Let's just change it from a negative counting down to what we don't want and focus on what we do want. That's the first step. The second step, I believe, in that process is not counting down anymore, not counting up to something, because the fact that you're counting up to something is essentially suggesting to your subconscious and your body that you're not there and you're never going to get there, because now you're counting up to something. But it's essential part of the process of going from negative to positive, just as changing the habit from negative to positive, and then altering that habit to, rather than counting up to it, or let's just say, we'll use the Friday example because it seems to, this I think it'll help this conversation, right? So instead of counting down till Friday at 5 when you get off work, because now hell is over and joy has begun again for 36 hours, then then just switch the belief to counting up to, set a plan of what you're going to do that weekend and count to that day. Say, man, I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited to see my family at 6 o'clock, right? Not, I can't wait till 5 so I can go home. I'm so excited to see my family. I'm so excited to eat dinner, right? So just shift that one little language pattern into what you're excited for rather than what you're running from. So that's the first step. Then take that time period, right? Rather than saying, well, I'm so excited for it, it's going to come in a week. It's going to come in 4 hours. It's going to come whatever. And this is Mel Robbins. I love a lot of things she does, but 5 seconds, right? This is a whole process behind the 5 second rule, right? It's okay if your habit is still counting down or up to something, but give yourself 5 seconds, but then allow yourself to experience the joy, the fulfillment, all of that wonderful feelings that you're going to feel on Friday. Just experience them today, right? And what that will do for your life, it will take, and as Kip put it, grab a different teaspoon out of that waterfall, right? It's the same process of, you don't even really have to change your habits that much. Your habits, I mean, eventually I would say change your habits, but there's ways to biohack your habits and just switch what is the habit, focus on what is the aspect of the habit, what does it look like, rather than the negative aspect. Statistics are happening all the time right now in America. We have this coronavirus, right? Guess what's being taught on the media and everywhere? You have about a 1% chance of dying if you get the coronavirus. Okay, you could say that. And it's like everybody's freaking out about a 1% or a 2% chance of dying, right? And they're sharing all these horrific statistics of how many people are going to go down. And so unfortunately, that's what we're all focused on. The chances of us becoming part of that number from an energetic perspective are a lot higher because that's what we're focused on. If They instead said, hey, look, 99% of people in the world are going to have no problem with this. Do you think there's going to be mass hysteria if they say, hey, look, 99% of the public don't even need to worry? No, there's no mass hysteria, because like, well, why the heck are we worried then? Like 1%, 99% of people aren't going to be infected or care, or like they're going to get past this. We're not shutting down the economy if 99% of everybody's fine. Now, if 1% of people die, shut everything down. I mean, that's how ridiculous just altering how you present information is. And it's crucial that you're aware of how you're allowing information to be presented to you. Because when you're watching the news or you're watching stuff, again, I'm not saying don't get informed, but when you hear a statistic about this many people negative result, just practice for the next week changing that from, oh, well, that means the opposite, the difference of how many people have a positive result. Just by doing that one little thing, I think you'll see your whole entire moods and energy and everything increase substantially just by making that one little thing. So rather than counting down towards the end of your misery, start focusing on what you want and then draw that closer to you to where you can experience it in seconds or milliseconds rather than in a week or a month or a year or whatever, right? 6 years. If you're worried about, right now we're potty training my kid. Well, I should say my wife is. I'm not helping as much as I probably could. But she's counting down to when it's just easy again, rather than counting up to, hey, look, I'm so excited for when this is going to be done. And he's potty trained. He completely does it all by himself. And it's those little, I promise you, those little changes will transform the lens you see life through 1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer has always been probably my favorite out of all the quote unquote gurus. And his quote about, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Just like when I first heard that and I was young, I was like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And as I got older, man, he was so dead on the money. Like that is it. It's like we have so much more power than we realize and allow ourselves to be aware of. So it's amazing.
Absolutely
amazing.
So Kip, I'm curious, let's say somebody wanted to get access to you, take part in your coaching, just follow you. What's the best way for my audience to reach out to you and get help with some of this, especially during this time? I'm probably going to move this episode up to being more in alignment with what's going on world economically. But how could they get in touch with you, and what type of value do you see that their lives changing by working with you?
Then go to the website, brooksempowermentacademy.com. But also, all over social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and all of them are, the platform's website, and then or URL, and then / Kip Brooks Coaching. So yeah, any of those areas, reach out to me at comment on a post or reach out to me directly, either one, or email me directly. My email's on Brooks Empowerment Academy website. And I would be happy to, I post free content all the time, anything I do to help, especially right now. Any questions, anything anybody has, good or bad, don't like the sound of my voice, reach out. We can talk about it all. Luckily, I have the tools now. That stuff doesn't bother me like when I was younger. It's, work, say I coach coaches now and teaching these techniques, but I do a lot of work. A lot of my one-on-ones are with entrepreneurs or business owners, and I've been focusing a whole lot on men's empowerment and coaching right now, because there's just, there's the whole idea of toxic masculinity. Like the two are exclusive. It's like, oh, you're masculine, you're toxic. And it's just a load of crap. And what's the truth is, it's wounded. It's wounded masculinity. And, it's just that idea that we're not enough. We or need to do more, and we're not allowed to share. We're not allowed to express, and all of that. So work with men quite a bit in enhancing their relationships, future or present, and romantic or not. And also help in the area of career. Because once we fix this back, when someone comes to me, it's like, hey, we pick an area of life. It's like, kind of like marketing. It's like we niche down. Let's figure out what's the thing. Gary Keller wrote a phenomenal book called The One Thing. And just talking about the one thing that you can do right now that's going to impact the rest of your life, make everything else fall into place better. So someone comes to me, it's like, what's the one thing we can focus on, the one area right now that would just make all other areas better? Because out of all the areas of life, it's like there's only one person in all of them, and it's us. And it's like we can't get better in one section, one area, without making it better everywhere. And whenever I'm working with anyone, say my one-on-one clients, I still teach them coaching techniques that they can do on themselves and do with their family. And like I get everybody kind of involved just through this one person, because if I don't help you learn how to apply these everywhere, it's like even when I present in a seminar, it's like, yeah, okay, we're learning sales techniques here. However, this is where it's going to help you talk to your child, keep your child from ending up where I was. This is how you can talk to your coworkers, get your numbers up. This is how you can improve and maybe save your relationship, with your spouse or whoever. And because I feel like if I haven't done that, if I haven't taught you how all that applies, because like I say, when I was first taught NLP, it was all about the sales side of it. Had nothing to do with the other side. I had no idea. And then when I found out, I was like, whoa. And then I learned how to bring them both together. And it's like, if I'm not doing that for someone, I'm keeping something from them. Life is about, abundance is about giving it. And it's like, if I wasn't given these tools, I wouldn't have the life I have now. If I wasn't given these ideas and opportunities, I wouldn't have these 3 amazing kids and this wife who, in my eyes, walks on water, and have these amazing friends and life experiences. So, when I take someone on, that same protective spirit comes in of like, okay, I've got to make sure that if I'm not here tomorrow, this person is set. And that's how we approach everything, pretty much. It's like I'm dumping out every little trick I can think of that's going to help them.
Awesome. Love that. And then you said you have an online course as well?
Yeah, I wanted to gift you guys. We used to charge for this, but with everything going on now, I was like, this is it's huge. So it's a gratitude to you and your audience. It's 30 days to empowered positive living, and it's about an hour and 20-minute video where we teach about it and the process and the meaning behind everything. And then it's just like 5 minutes a day that they dedicate to it, 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just going through it's the presuppositions of NLP, but it's we give it a little different teaching to it to understand each one. And as they apply these, like positive thinking gets better, just their mindset, their physical state, mental and emotional state, but also the communication with themselves and their relationships get better. It just gives a different perspective of seeing the world and how we show up in it, and also what's going on with other people. We've got some beautiful, beautiful feedback, and it's something we wanted to gift as a token of gratitude for having me on.
Love it. So the links to all of those, his website, his social media profiles, and then the link to his coaching. I'm going to put the link to this online coaching at the top of the show notes. So definitely take advantage of that. I mean, you're not going to lose anything, and you're going to gain so much happiness, peace, and joy and light in your life. And what's cool about you gaining light in your life is you'll see how much light you can bring into other people's life by you understanding these principles. Not everybody has to go through this training. It would be great if everybody did, but like, let's say you have a family of 4 brothers and sisters and 2 parents, right? And maybe they're all married, whatever. By you doing this and you living in your truth and living in a more positive existence, everybody else is going to, like a rising tide lifts all boats. You can be that rising tide. Even though they didn't necessarily go through that same training, it's going to rub off on them because you now are interacting differently. So please take advantage of that. It's life-changing. So here's the so this is the last section. This is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. Okay. So there's 5 questions, and out of these 5, we're just looking for 1 word to 1 sentence answers. Okay. So this is fast. The first question you have to answer with a sentence. Okay. Okay. So are you ready to go? Legacy on rapid fire.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So what do you believe is currently holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy?
Um, just uh, the awareness of what the next level is for me. Direction.
Awesome. And what do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Learning to love again.
Awesome. What do you think is the greatest success at this point in your life?
Actually, I could answer that with the last one, but I'll mix it up. Greatest success I have would be the relationship I have with my wife and my kids.
Awesome. Okay, now this is I love this, and you guys are listening. Take note of this right here. How he answers this. But what is one of your secrets do you believe contributes most to your success?
My secrets, the belief, and actually we go over this in that course, the belief that there's no failure, there's only feedback. That's it. It really is. We far too often take it personally when something, an idea fails, we stumble. We're like, oh, I'm a failure. No, not at all. It's simply, we have so many people who are gamers, and it's like, well, when you get beat in the game, did you quit and throw the game out? Nope. Then why would you do it in life? It's like same thing. Hit restart. Let's get back in it. Get an extra life. Whatever it is, just go. Just change direction. You go in a little more educated. So yeah, no failure, only feedback.
That one, especially again, given the circumstances of the world we're in, doesn't matter if you got fired, laid off, changing jobs. Doesn't matter if you got sick. There's no failure. There's nothing wrong. It's just feedback. How are we going to adjust? How are we going to improve our health, our value in the marketplace, our beliefs, those things. So don't take this as like a failure, but take it as I need feedback. Okay. So then what books would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
For me, my probably my all-time favorite was The Four Agreements. Also, David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Phenomenal book. It quickly became one of my all-time favorites. And then let's see, my third favorite would have to be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
That one's so freaking good.
Yeah.
Especially right now, guys. I'm not kidding. Go reread that book and see what's going on in the world and how are people being controlled. I'm not joking. I reread that. So in the end of Think and Grow Rich, if you've read that book, he goes over the 7 ghosts of fear. Make sure you're not falling prey to the 7 ghosts of fear, man. I mean, this is like the world is being controlled by fear right now through the media. It is. Now, whether that's that, I'm not blaming anybody, right? I'm sure everybody's doing what they feel is best and is in their best interest. And I'm not blaming them to do so. All I'm doing is inviting you to do the same. Do what's in your best interest. Don't allow somebody else to affect you and do what is in their best interest to you. You intentionally decide what's in your best interest and go do it. And then Outwitting the Devil, that's on my list this month of books that need to be reread, because that is a huge, huge, huge book. I mean, it's like understanding what exactly is in place from a systemic cultural perspective, kind of bird's eye view of how people are controlled and how you lose in that book. They use the term drifting. How the main goal is to get you to drift and not be intentional. If there's any point in time you're sitting at home, right? If there's any point in time that this is applicable, now is the time. Do not be a drifter. Do not choose out of creation. Intentionally plan your day. Intentionally create exactly what's going on every day. Even if it's at home, even if it's washing the clothes, vacuuming the floor, scrubbing the floor, whatever it is, be intentional, because the act of complacency, the act of drifting is seriously dangerous on so many levels. Don't allow that to be you. Get actively involved in whatever you can do in your community to help the people around you. Anyways, that book, phenomenal book. Great read, great recommendation here.
Especially when I heard the story about how it came in and how controversial it was all through its, until it was published. It was like, oh, I got to read that book.
Oh, yeah.
And then it read it. It so lives up to the hype. It's phenomenal. So far beyond its, beyond its time.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible. So this is the last question. Okay. And that's my favorite question. This is honestly, I mean, I do the podcast for a lot of reasons, but this is probably the key reason I do the podcast. One day I'm going to compile all these answers and turn it into one episode, right? But it's just so freaking good. Okay, so here's the question. I know. Here's the question. So it has to do with legacy building. What legacy are you building? So I want you to imagine, okay, go to this place where you've passed on, you've died, and you're able to walk into a room where your great grandchildren are sitting around a table discussing your life. So this is 6 generations from now, 100 to 150 years from now. Okay. You're gone, you're dead, but you walk in and they're sitting around discussing your life. What do you want them to be saying about you, your mission, and your legacy 6 generations from now?
Ooh, beautiful thought. Wow. I love that one. Obvious with kind of the type of led is in the journey I've had. For me is I remember telling somebody years ago when I first got into personal development, realized I wanted to be a coach and speaker and all that. And they're like, "What's your big vision? Like, go big, go big." I was like, "I want to wipe out depression and suicide. I want it to be a myth." And they, I remember the person looked at me, laughed, told me, go big, laughed, said that'll never happen. So, well, let's see if I can make you eat your words. And, I believe it can happen. Whether I'll be, at the wheel when it does, no idea. That'd be phenomenal. But if I can be a ripple that, in that pond, that does wipe it out, that turns into a wave that wipes it out. Heck yeah, that would be beautiful. I would, if I had already created that ripple now and knew it, I could go right now, be happy and peaceful.
I love that. And guys, that is exactly why he's on this podcast, because that's a big part of what I want my legacy to be as well. Why I started the show, why I do what I do, why I teach people how money works, all of those things to help people overcome anxiety, depression, feel like they are empowered, they know their worth, and that they can accomplish anything they put their mind to. I love it. So Kip, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, these links that he's said about his website, social media links, and most importantly, I think, given current circumstances, the links to his online course, they're going to be in the show notes. So go get those and make sure that you are taking part in that thing. Yeah, thank you so much, Kip. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your words of wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. I'll get you the link for the gift, because actually I was setting it up this morning. I'll email you that right now, and so you'll have it. So thank you so much. I love what you're doing.
Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.